All right, what's going on, everybody? Harry here, and welcome to my second YouTube live event. It looks like just got the notification on my phone that I've gone live, so hopefully it's working for you all, and hopefully you can see the video streaming. Took me a few tries last time around, but I think that I got it all set up, and hopefully everything is working. Looks all right on my end. So if you guys are just joining for the first time, welcome. Thanks for coming on and joining this YouTube Live. Feel free to say hi, let me know that you're out there. And what we're basically going to go over in this session, I'm going to go over a couple top news stories with what's been going on in the rideshare world, a few of the latest app updates, because in the past month, so I did my first YouTube Live a month ago, and we talked about a lot of news stories. In the past month, though, there's been a few big app updates that we've written about and covered on the blog and the YouTube channel. We'll go over those in depth. And then, of course, the QA session, which will hopefully be fun for you guys, and you can ask me any questions that you want, and hopefully you'll have some good questions saved up for me. And I'll try to answer everything that I can. I'll also have Christian participating in there, and he'll be able to answer some of those questions that I don't get to, and we'll also send a little recap and put links in the show notes and all that good stuff. Make sure you stay tuned to the end too, because I'm actually going to do another little swag giveaway. So if you guys are on my first YouTube Live, I gave out a lot of swag. So I think I gave out a lot more than I said I would, but this time I'm probably going to give out 3 of these new Rideshare Guy trucker hats. So you can see that I got the new colors too. Got the blue, white, and red. Very patriotic, I guess, in honor of the election that's coming up. So hopefully you guys can make it till the end. This is going to be probably a 1-hour YouTube live session, and we're going to cover everything that I talked about. So I see we've got quite a few people joining on, so let me hop over here and see what we got. We got Rideshare Genius back. What's up, Rideshare Genius? I don't know your actual name, but I know your logo. And thanks for joining again. We got a couple people from Phoenix, someone who wants to cover Juno. And then someone from Hemet. So I think that's in California. And yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. Looks like we also got Casey in the house. So real quick, I want to do a quick little icebreaker before we get started. You guys can go ahead, since it's football season. I don't know about you guys. I'm a big football fan. I like the Chargers, San Diego Chargers, and also the LA Rams too, now that they're back in LA. So that's been cool for me. Let me know who your favorite football team is. I think that we're going to have a lot of football fans out there just from the cities that I'm seeing, and feel free, pro, college, whatever it might be, definitely let me know. And with that, we'll get started. So the first thing, there weren't a ton of breaking news, I guess you would say, in the rideshare world in the past month. I'm just going to quickly go over one story because I think there was a big one that came out over just last week, and you guys might be familiar with this, but it was basically this study that was done by researchers at Stanford and MIT and a couple other pretty big name places. And basically what they found were that Uber and Lyft drivers were actually discriminating against certain passengers. And I think that for a lot of you guys, when we first read this story, we we're kind of thinking, man, I don't discriminate against passengers. Someone left a funny comment on my Facebook page that said the only color that I care about is green, right? Green for money. So this was an interesting study. I'm going to try and share, let's see if this will work. I'm going to try and share my screen right now because we wrote a little article about this. And hopefully I don't screw this up. All right. So you guys can see, it looks like it didn't quite, I think that it was looking okay. But you guys can see here that we did this article basically today on are rideshare drivers actually racist? And we sort of talked about this. I'm going to drop a link right here. You guys can check out this, learn a little bit more. We've got a lot of people joining, so thanks everyone for coming on. I'm going to leave a link to this if you guys want to check it out. But basically what this study showed was that rideshare drivers were actually just, oh, it looks like you guys cannot see the screen. Maybe you can. I don't know if this, Okay, there we go. All right, so now I think I'm sharing my screen, right? So hopefully that's working. Like I said, still figuring out these technical challenges. But we wrote this article and published it today, actually, about are rideshare drivers actually racist? Because this was something that the study came out, and I kind of basically took the opposite point of view. I mean, one thing I noticed from talking to all these drivers is really that just man, it doesn't seem like anyone obviously is going to admit to being racist, but I think that a lot of drivers care more about the money they're making. They care more about, kind of like, so what we highlighted in this article is basically here are the things that I think passengers do care about, right? Kind of the low rated passengers. I mean, me personally, I won't accept a 4.6 or below rated passenger unless it's really slow, right? Overly drunk passengers are something that I try to avoid. So these are things that I sort of do discriminate against as a driver. And then this is what kind of a controversial one: passengers who live in bad neighborhoods. I mean, as you can imagine, some people aren't comfortable delivering or dropping people off or picking people up in certain neighborhoods. And so these are kind of where you get into these issues. And so we basically, with this study, actually found that drivers were discriminating against certain passengers, and there's definitely been some good comments left down here, so I recommend you guys check that out. It looks like we have a few comments coming in, and let's see. AK, most of my drivers are Black and Middle Eastern, totally racist. You caught me. I don't really understand what that comment means, but Jay says here in NYC there is a racist problem. So this is something that I think is going to be a big issue going forward, especially as Uber and Lyft start to work with a lot of these authorities. I kind of highlighted too the fact that in a lot of places, Uber actually, they incentivize drivers. So this is LA. You can see this is the earnings boost. So you get basically increased fares for driving in these areas. And if you bring up a racial map, you can see that basically all of these areas are predominantly white. And then when you start to go into this green and orange, you can see that's more Black and Hispanic. So this is just something that is definitely interesting to keep an eye on. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this screen right now. Let's see if it works. Go back to me. So hopefully this came back on me. It looks like we are working now. And definitely, so that was really kind of one big story that broke. Feel free to chime in with your comments, and we can talk about any of that going forward. A couple other things that I want to mention too is that in the past month, there were some pretty big app changes. So we kind of highlighted that Uber's actually not offering email support anymore. And to break this down a little further, we actually wrote a blog post on the Rideshare Guy. And basically what happens now is before you could actually email support at uber.com, but now you have to initiate help from the driver app. Right, so you have to go in there and you have to select a little, an issue or something like that, and then go through. Or we did found a little bit of a workaround. I'm going to share that right now. I created a little short link for it, but you guys can use this if you have any problems. You can actually still submit questions right here. And Peter, yes, I am part Asian. I'm half Chinese, but. So I created that short link, so you can actually still submit help to Uber. It's just more of a workaround. So that's something to keep in mind, that you can't directly email Uber. You can submit an inquiry through the app, and they'll get back to you often through email or through the app, and you can talk to them there. Or you can actually go and use this direct link that I just shared. So this is definitely something interesting and kind of a big update to the app. We also Christian wrote an article on the Uber trip upgrade. So this is an interesting new feature that so I went out driving yesterday, and I actually haven't had this happen to me yet as a driver. So I'd be curious to know if any of you guys have had or are familiar with this Uber trip upgrade. I've been hearing pretty mixed things, and really, with the Uber trip upgrade, it's kind of an interesting thing that basically if you're driving to a passenger and let's say you're 10 minutes away from a passenger, you can actually get that trip switched out for a closer trip as you get closer to that destination. And Uber set it up in a way that ideally, or hopefully, you won't, if you're on a 2x surge, for example, you won't get any trips that are lower surge. So they kind of took care of all of the questions you might have, in that regards, and they will switch that trip out. So if they need to find a closer driver to your original request, and they also need to find a new passenger that's closer to you, and they basically switch those trips. So that's something that's definitely interesting that's going on. We'll go ahead and leave a link to that in the show notes of this video if you guys want to check out more on the Uber trip upgrade. And then, of course, there's also the new Rider app, which was sort of a big story. Definitely recommend, if you guys haven't taken a ride as a passenger, that's one of my #1 tips. I think that's my most popular YouTube video, actually, is to take a ride as a passenger, because first of all, you get a free ride. So I can leave a link for that. But basically, you get a free ride, and then also, of course, you can learn a lot about what it's like to be a driver. So if you're considering being a driver, that's a good way to test out, talk to a driver, things like that. And then also just see, hey, if you get a 4.9 star rated driver, what's this driver doing that I'm not doing? Or if you get a 4.6 rated driver, what's this driver doing poorly? So that's definitely something that you guys want to consider. And let's see. So feel free, I want to focus most of this session, kind of like I mentioned, we go over some of these top news stories, some of the latest app updates. And then a bulk of this session, though, is for you guys to really ask me all the questions that you want. I'm happy to answer anything and do my best to answer any of these questions. I'm going to start going through some of these questions. And if you don't get your question answered, just feel free to keep on asking it, or write it down, and kind of when it's relevant towards the end, I'll definitely do my best to answer. So let me take a quick sip of water, because my throat is getting a little sore. So let's see. So Peter, first question that I'll be able to answer: what about a 5x surge? Will you take a 4.5? And I think you're referring to basically the fact that I said that I don't take low rated passengers. And I guess I should, so we have an article about this, about basically, passenger rating systems and things like that we can share. And when, there's always going to be cases, where it does make sense. So for example, I said if it's slow out, right, probably can't be as picky with your, so if you normally only take 4.6 and above rated passengers, you probably can't be as picky, right, with the passengers that you take if it's super slow out. Or if it's a super high surge, you probably don't need to be as picky. Hey, if you're at a 5x surge or a 3x surge, you're just happy to get that ride. Take it, count your chips while you got them. Who cares what the passenger is, and take that passenger to where they need to be. So that's definitely how I'd handle that situation. Let's see. We also, so Mr. Aston Martin says, I agree, you're asking for trouble if you accept a trip passenger below 4.6. So I think that's a good question. I mean, if you guys have a cutoff, what's been your experience with passengers with low ratings? So I think that's one of the things that's super unfair about the rating system, right? That drivers have to maintain a 4.6 rating to, in order to stay active on the platform, but it's not double-sided, right? Passengers have no such requirements. And, it's not a big deal. If you're a 4.0 rated passenger, you'll still be able to get a trip. You might just have to wait a few minutes longer or a few seconds longer. So I'm curious to know if you guys actually have any types of those requirements. Do you accept any passengers that come to you? Feel free to chime in and let me know. It looks like we got a question, and real quick, I see Christian from the Rideshare guy has joined in, so I'm going to set him as a moderator. I don't know exactly what that'll do for you, Christian, but I think that gives you some superpowers. It looks like Nicholas Lopez, he's chiming in, and he says that I accept all requests. Some people, Halos Corp says, I'm just happy to get a ride. And Avon816, you asked, how do you check your rating before you accept a ride? And I'm assuming that you mean, how do you check the passenger's rating? And if that's what you're asking, I'm going to share a little YouTube video right now that we created about, this video should help you guys. So that's a video that I just shared, and that's going to be how you use the Uber driver app, and we actually show you, because when you get an accept, or when you go to accept the request, right, when you're sitting there and you're online and the request comes in, you can see certain things about the passenger, right? And so the things you can see are an estimated location, sort of about where they are, and an address, an ETA, how long it's going to take you to get there, the level of service, so if it's UberX, Uber Pool, Uber Select, whatever it might be, and then the passenger's rating, right? And that's where you can make the decision, hey, do I want to accept or ignore this request? And that's really where you should make that decision too, because Uber's new acceptance rate policy actually allows you to ignore as many trips as you want without being deactivated. If you're on bonuses or guarantees or something like that, you have to watch out for that. But if not, you can actually ignore all the trips you want. If you ignore 2 or 3 in a row, though, they may put you on timeout. So definitely something that you want to look out for. And this also kind of ties into the issue we were talking about earlier with kind of the Uber drivers potentially being racist, because that study actually found that drivers were accepting these rides. And then once they saw the name, because on Uber, like I said, right, I shared that video on Uber as a driver, you don't see the name until after you accept the request. And these researchers found the drivers were actually canceling on passengers with black sounding names 2 to 1 versus passengers with white sounding names. And so that's definitely something interesting. So it sounds like a lot of you guys, though, kind of just accept all rides and all riders, no matter what the distance is, no matter what their rating is. So definitely more power to you. Let's see, we got a few other good questions coming in. And Bob says, I had a wine shop last week that had me deliver 3 bottles of wine, received a tip at the delivery point from the wine buyer. That's awesome. I don't know if that's necessarily a question, but awesome. And AKY says, my rating went from 4.7 to 4.6 on Lyft after 2 rides. They both tipped me $3, but didn't give me 5 stars. Passengers don't understand the damn rating system, especially in a college town. And yeah, I know, I feel you. Ratings are definitely, actually, this happened to me last night. I was driving for Lyft yesterday, and I got so I was doing Uber and Lyft yesterday, and got 2 pretty good rides on Lyft. They were both $15 each. And they both left me a tip of $2, but I saw that my rating went from 4.94 to 4.93. So one of them must have rated me lower than a 5, maybe a 4, maybe even a 3. I had no idea why. And but even though they tipped me, right? So they still tipped me, but rated me lower. It makes no sense, right? But honestly, most ratings complaints have to do with navigation and safety issues. So that's sort of one of the reasons why I recommend taking a ride as a passenger, because you really start to see a lot of that stuff. And actually, now that I think about it, one of my Lyft passengers last night did kind of complain that I didn't take her preferred route. And I was just kind of following Google Maps. It was late at night. There was no traffic, but apparently she had a preferred route. So sometimes on those longer trips, or even just at the beginning, generally I'll say, hey, do you have a preferred route or something like that? Because even if it's not faster, it's sort of like, hey, the customer's always right. You want to make them feel like they know what they're talking about or they know what they're doing. So definitely kind of a careful thing that you need to balance, but something to watch out for. So Bob, he mentioned that he has the tip card displayed on the seat. His Lyft rating is at 9.1. 9.1 is pretty damn good. I don't know how you got to 9.1, since it's a scale of 1 to 5. And so, yeah, you might want to watch out for that. But yeah, that's definitely something that we wrote an article. Christian wrote a good article on Uber tip signs, right? Because a lot of drivers on Uber have been testing these tip signs. And this is something we're experimenting with. And we'll probably do another article and probably a YouTube video in the future about tip signs. But this is definitely something drivers are having success with. The one thing I'll say is that if you are going to use something like a tip sign or talk about tips or do anything like that, obviously with Lyft, passengers can leave a tip in the app, but on Uber, there's no way to tip in the app. That being said, for a lot of drivers who are using these tip signs, they've been getting pretty decent tips. And the one thing that I would say is that if you're going to do that, just make sure that you're ready to explain why you're doing it, right? Make sure that you're going above and beyond. Maybe you're dressing a little bit better than other Uber drivers. Maybe you open the door once in a while, right? You can't just go out there expecting tips, especially on Uber, and then when you don't get tips, be pissed, right? You sort of have to be doing something to earn those tips. So I'd say that that's kind of my advice on that. And it looks like we got a couple questions coming in. Paul says, Harry, what exactly is going on with tipping? And do you ever see Uber incorporating that into the app? And honestly, I mean, I hate to say it, but I really don't see Uber incorporating a tip option into the app. It's just something that's sort of ingrained into their culture. And I think at this point, so many passengers kind of expect it. The tip is not expected, or that there's no tip when they go and do these rides. It would really kind of create a lot of confusing messaging for Uber. That being said, I do think drivers are having a lot of success with those tip signs, educating riders and doing things like that on their own. So definitely, hopefully that helps you guys with the tip signs. I think they're a good idea. I mean, if you're borderline 4.6, 4.7, you probably shouldn't be using a tip sign. because you might get a passenger. Yeah, you probably will get a passenger here and there who might rate you lower. But if you're at a 4.9 and you've done hundreds of rides, a few bad ratings because of a tip sign aren't going to be a big deal. And you can also feel out passengers, right? If they say something about a tip sign, it's really all about how you explain it, right? You can talk about, hey, Uber has lowered rates in these cities. Here's what I'm doing to provide exemplary service, or just prove it, right? You don't always need to say it, right? Sort of the good analogy that Rez told me about when I interviewed him on my podcast. He's sort of a customer service specialist. He said that when you go and stay at a Ritz-Carlton or a really nice hotel, they don't ask you at the end of the ride for a 5 stars. They don't ask you for a tip. What they do is prove it to you with their service, right? Everything they do is 5 stars. Everything they do is tip worthy, so that it's not even a question, right? And that's kind of how they get away with it. So definitely something for you guys to check out. And yeah, Christian just shared the tip sign review article that we did, so feel free to go ahead and check that out. We have some tip signs in there, and actually some cool creative Uber drivers have been sending me tip signs that they've been making and boxes that they've been selling, and we linked up a couple of those to kind of support Uber drivers and just kind of that entrepreneurial spirit. So definitely go ahead and check it. So let's see, we got another question about, I think so we've seen a couple of questions about delivery coming in, so I definitely want to get to those. I think that with some of the delivery stuff that's going on, oh wow, looks like we're up to 60 live viewers too, which is awesome. So thank you, real quick. Thank you. If you're just joining now, thank you for joining. We kind of covered a few of the app updates, some breaking news, and now we're going full Q&A. So definitely feel free to keep asking those questions. I'm gonna do my best to answer as many as possible. I saw someone mention Amazon Flex, Uber Eats, and so I've signed up with Postmates. I've done deliveries with Postmates. I've signed up with DoorDash. We've also signed up. Christian has been doing a bunch of deliveries with Caviar. So delivery is a big thing right now, guys. And honestly, I think in peak hours, right, Friday, Saturday nights, when it's surging 3, 4, 5x or 2, 3, 4x, and you can make crazy money with Uber, or kind of those peak earning hours for Uber and Lyft, I think you'll make more with rideshare than delivery. But we're finding out that there's honestly a lot of times where delivery makes sense, right? During lunch hours, on Sundays, Friday, Saturday nights, if you don't want to deal with drunk people, right? If you just are kind of over dealing with rideshare passengers or just need a break, that's kind of where delivery can really come in. Because what's surprising is delivery, they may not have quite as high as sign-up bonuses or things like that, but drivers are doing pretty well. We shared an article, so we actually now have a monthly contributor that contributes on DoorDash. Christian has been trying out Caviar, so definitely something, it looks like Peter is chiming in that food actually pays better. So, there's a lot of variability between pay on rideshare and from city to city, and same thing goes for delivery. So it's definitely something that I recommend at least trying out, because if you're doing Uber and Lyft, it doesn't take much time to go and add on another delivery service, or even Uber Eats. I mean, when Uber Eats is launching, I think Uber Eats is in 30 cities right now, expanding internationally, and especially when they first launch, man, there's a lot of incentives, there are a lot of bonuses, and there are a lot of guarantees when it comes to Uber Eats when they first launch in a city. As for how much money you can actually make, that's sort of hit or miss. I mean, there's lots of strategies that we've gone into on the blog. We'll share some links as far as delivery, but these services are getting more efficient. I mean, to give you an example on Uber Eats, how the system works is that basically if I'm a customer, I place an order with the restaurant will then fulfill that order, and they notify Uber when the driver should come and pick it up. So ideally, as an Uber Eats driver, you should be going to the restaurant, the food should be ready, you pick it up and drop it off, right? No hassles of dealing with, kind of ordering and paying and all that. Hopefully you can get a good parking spot right out front. So that's something that, is pretty unique to Uber Eats. You don't really see that necessarily with Postmates and DoorDash. That's definitely a little different, and one thing that I think is different. So let's see, we got a couple other questions coming in, and let's see, delivery is too much work. You have to pick up food and then drive to the customer. Seems like a lot of time and effort to make a couple dollars. And, I think that's a valid point, but at the same time, there's a learning curve. I think Christian can definitely chime in since he's been doing a bunch of Caviar deliveries lately. And I mean, you get the hang of parking, maybe semi-illegally or illegally, or finding a good parking spot, running in, getting the order. Because I will say that some delivery services, I think Uber Eats and Caviar specifically, DoorDash and Postmates are doing a better job of this, but with DoorDash and Postmates, they have a ton of restaurants that you can order from. Caviar and Uber Eats are much more limited. So the idea there is that really you shouldn't have to spend a lot of time figuring out parking, figuring out, which how to order and do all that. You should really just walk in, grab the food and go. And then there's even sometimes where they'll actually stack the orders, and that's where you can start making real money. It's sort of, think of it like as an Uber pool for food, but it's actually a little bit easier since you pick up from the same restaurant and then drop off at 2 different destinations. So those are definitely kind of my overall general feedback of delivery. But in general, I think you should definitely at least look into it, because there's some good money to be made. And we didn't even talk about Amazon Flex. If people are curious about Amazon Flex, we have a couple articles coming out in the future from John, who has done a bunch of YouTube videos for us, Jonathan Nope, and he's also a Flex driver. We've got some good resources that we're starting to share on Amazon Flex, and that's basically delivering packages, although they're also starting to do food now too. So there's lots of different opportunities. I guess what I would say for you is find the right one that works. I mean, you can go and read. We try to provide really good information as to what it's like and the potential experience that you might find. But really, I think at the end of the day, every person is different, every market is different, and really going out and trying these services, do your due diligence. But at the end of the day, you sort of need to take that leap of faith, make that jump, and you never really know. You might think that it's going to be a shittiest job ever, but you really never are going to know until you do it, until you try it, right? So I'm not saying you need to go and try every single delivery service, but if you haven't and you're at least somewhat interested in making a little money, seeing what the experience is like, go and do it. So hopefully that helps. Let's see what other kind of questions we got coming in. Violent Sausage 45. Looks like that guy probably is going to get banned pretty soon. I think, Christian, I gave you power to ban people, so feel free to go ahead and do that. Or I think I can do it too right now. I'll put him in timeout. So it looks like I can put people in timeout. So let's see. So Chris comes in with a question. You guys, I got accused of something very bad due to the rider getting charged a cleanup fee. Get a camera. Harry and Uberman recommend the Black View, just installed. It's amazing. I don't recommend the Black View. I don't know what that is, but I do recommend a dash cam. And the one I've been using that I have in my car is a Falcon 360. And I'll be honest, the more I've used it, I actually think there's better dash cams out there. And I would say having a camera like the Falcon is better than nothing for sure, but it's not cheap, right? It's $150. I think it's a good insurance policy though, just in case for any of these situations, whether you get accused of something, it handles so many different situations, accidents, pukers, I don't know, giving rides to people you shouldn't be giving rides to. If you're in the right, a dash cam is going to exonerate you. So I guess that's the best way to put it. If you're out there doing everything legal, following all the rules, you think you're a good driver, install that dash cam. And we're actually looking, I'd be curious to know if you guys have recommendations for dash cams. I'd love to hear, because we're going to do a round 2 of dash cams. I'm really looking for dash cams though that actually have a wider field of view for the passengers and the drivers, better night vision, because that's something that's obviously super important since a lot of rides are happening at night. And of course, you want to be able to clearly see license plates, so it has to be super high definition with the front-facing camera. And there's even cameras now that are super cool because they'll actually motion activate if someone bumps in your car, or even if someone walks in front of your car. So stuff like that, these dash cams are getting pretty advanced. Definitely recommend that you guys at least look into it. I'll go ahead and drop a link real quick. You guys can check out what we've done as far as dash cams. We've got some really cool reviews actually that we spent a lot of time, energy, effort, and also money too, because we bought a bunch of these dash cams and checked it out. So definitely check these out. Feel free to keep bringing the questions in. And oh, Dennis, that's actually a really good question. What about the legality of recording people without telling them? And typically, I'm just going to blanket say that if you put a sticker up in your car, you can almost always record video and audio. And, it varies by city and all that good stuff. But in California, for example, as long as you have a sticker, you can actually record video in California, I believe, without any type of sticker. In my car, though, when I'm recording with a dash cam, I just bought these cheap stickers off Amazon. And if you guys check out the article that I linked to, you'll be able to see what the actual stickers that I bought and the cam I use and everything. But basically, you put a sticker up like that, and then you can record audio or video. In California, for example, you can do both. In other states, you might only be able to do video. So definitely just Google, what are the dash cam recording laws in your state. Make sure that you go to a reputable site and you can figure it out. But in general, if you put a sticker up in your car, you're going to be okay to record audio and video. And I do have a good video on YouTube too that I recorded. Will dash cams basically get you lower ratings? And in my experience, I have had no problems since I installed my dash cam. Actually, people don't even mention it. And when they do, I get the occasional passenger who asks about it because they see a little flashing green light. And I guess that would be nice for in a future dash cam if it didn't have that, so I don't have to explain what that is. But basically, I just tell them something like, hey, it's for your safety and for mine, and kind of go into why I have the dash cam. And usually that sort of satisfies passengers, and I've never really had any problems with it. So that's definitely something that you can go ahead and take care of. With a dash cam, I definitely recommend it. I'm going to be looking for a few new dash cams to review because I think there's better ones out there. I really want to find a good one that's under $100 because some of these dash cams are 120, 130, 150. I think that's kind of expensive. So let's see. We also have Chris kind of, I guess, is confirming what I said. No, one person has asked me or questioned the camera in the last 2 days. One party state here. No one is rating me bad. So I definitely think that, yeah, I'm really big on dash cams. Things like dash cams, rideshare insurance, I think someone else asked about. I think those are pretty important for you guys to at least look into and at least consider. So I don't know the specific laws for your state, but luckily it's pretty easy to Google this type of stuff. And I think we'll move on from the dash cams, but hopefully that answered all your guys' questions as far as that. Let's see what else is coming in here. And if you're just joining, it looks like we're up to about 60 plus live viewers, which is awesome. I think that's double the first time that we had, the amount of viewers we had on the first time. So it's definitely something that I'm enjoying. Hopefully you guys are getting a lot out of this, and we'll keep on doing these once a month in the future. But basically, feel free. Right now, we're going through with a live Q&A. So if you guys have any questions for me about the site, about the blog, about driving, let me know if you're a new driver, if you're an old driver, what questions you guys want to get answered. We have Christian in there in the comments asking or answering a bunch of your questions that I'm not getting to, but I'm going to go ahead and try to get to everything that I can get to. And Rocky, thank you for doing this. Of course, no problem. I love doing these live interactions, and as long as you guys are getting a lot of value out of it and coming to check out the YouTube lives, I'm definitely going to keep doing them. Hopefully I can, provide as much help as I can right now in the session. And Chris mentions, Harry, thanks for your work. You and Randy have helped me out a lot. And yeah, definitely, if you guys haven't checked out Uberman's channel, that's a great channel too. I'm going to actually probably try and bring Uberman on one of these future YouTube live sessions. So hopefully you guys will be able to get to enjoy everything he has to say too. Let's see what happens. It looks like we have a couple questions coming in on taxes, and that is good because the end of the year is coming up. We're going to have a ton of great tax content, videos, articles, everything. And going forward in January, February, March, April. But in short, for taxes, the big thing is that you guys want to go ahead and, oh man, it looks like oh man, it's really fun putting people in timeout. So all of these questions that don't make any sense, I'm just going to keep putting people in timeout. This is pretty fun for me. So if you guys are, worried about taxes or anything like that, I guess the biggest thing that you want to think about is just start documenting everything. I think, first and foremost, tracking your mileage. Uber and Lyft are going to provide on-trip mileage. Uber provides on-trip mileage. Lyft will provide a little bit more. As long as you have the app on, they'll provide that mileage in a tax summary at the end of the year. But you guys are going to want to go ahead and track all your mileage independently, because there's lots of situations where you might have the app off and still be driving for business, or kind of driving home with a destination filter on. Just making sure that you can kind of verify it with this third party. Some CPAs sort of argue over this period of commuting to and from. Let's say you live out in the suburbs and you drive into Los Angeles, or you drive into San Francisco every day. There's sort of some question there among CPAs whether those miles are deductible or not. I deduct those miles. Uber now has this destination filter where you can set your destination as home, and I think that makes it kind of a no-brainer to deduct those miles. Obviously, I'm not a tax professional, so I can't give tax advice, but that's definitely something that you guys can go and check out. So Mike is also asking, what can you deduct besides mileage? Yeah, so really one of the best things that I would say is really look for any type. Well, so a big thing is going to be meals and entertainment. So if you guys are out there meeting up with other drivers and having food, you can't deduct if you just go and have a burrito while you're driving, you actually can't deduct that. But if you're going out and meeting with other drivers, talking business, talking rideshare, talking shop, you can deduct all those miles. Things like dash cams, my video training course, any type of training that you're doing, all of these things that are basically necessary to run your business are typically, what I'm going to go and deduct. So even simple stuff, kind of like I mentioned, like the dash cam supplies that you have, to keep your car clean, car wash things, those are all things that I'm deducting. So there's really, I would say at the high level, you want to look at that mileage because in 2016, it's actually a 54 cents per mile deduction, right? If you're a full-time driver, you might easily be putting 1,000 miles a week on your car. Let's say you're making $1,000 and you put 1,000 miles a week on your car. That's a $540 deduction. So that means that you only have to pay taxes on $460 per week. And if you're only making the IRS only sees that you're making $460 per week, your taxes are going to be pretty dang low. So, excuse me, that's definitely something that you guys want to go ahead, and we've got lots of resources on the site that you can go ahead and check out a little bit more. So let's see, I want to talk about, Joseph says the big deduction is mileage, guys. No need to deduct anything else. Well, I wouldn't say there's no need to deduct anything else, but if you're only going to do one thing, definitely deduct your mileage. So, and we've got a bunch of cool free tools actually that you guys can use. I'm going to go ahead and link this up right now. There are a bunch of apps, some paid, some not, and you guys can definitely go ahead and check that out. Let's see, we've got a couple people getting a little crazy in the comments. We'll go ahead and moderate all those so you guys don't have to read that crap. I'm not sure what it is about YouTube, but YouTube, I get the craziest comments and the craziest people are on YouTube. So if you're one of those crazy people, let me know. I'm not sure what's going on YouTube, why it attracts such freaky people, but on the blog, I get total normal comments. On the podcast, normal comments. But YouTube, all of a sudden, it gets a little crazy. So I'll go ahead and take some of these guys out right now. Sorry, Luke, one strike with the rideshare guy. You guys know if you've ever been on my Facebook page, I'm pretty. Oh, it looks like there's someone pretending to be you, so that's funny. But so I'll go ahead and take care of that. But let's see, what other questions we got coming in. Let's see, does everybody know about Soapy Joe's Car Wash? Never heard of it, but I'm assuming it's a car wash place. And let's see what other questions we got. So we talked about taxes. Oh, a good question from Joe. Is it possible to make a full income off ride sharing? So, personally, I think Uber and Lyft are best used in a part-time capacity. I mean, I think that it really allows you to take advantage of the flexibility. It allows you to target the hours where you can make the most amounts of money, but it can be done to work rideshare full time. It's going to depend a lot on your city. It's going to depend on a lot on your situation, how much money you're looking to make. I mean, if you just got laid off from your job and you have the option of working full time for Uber or making $0 a month, then basically you probably want to work full time, right? So, in those types of situations, if you're working summer jobs, right, there aren't probably a lot of jobs that are going to allow you to work 2 to 3 months at a time. But if you're looking to just kind of grind it out and work full time indefinitely into the future, I think it's a tough gig, man. I think it's a tough life. I don't think I would personally be able to do it. And I think that, going forward, there are a lot of drivers who, there's a reason why taxi drivers are super disgruntled and super angry when you're driving 50, 60 hours a week in a cab. That's a tough life. And I think anyone who can do that should be commended. So I guess I would say that there's certain situations and times that you can definitely use it for full-time income. But if you're really looking to make the best of this, then you kind of want to start looking to really creating a business around it, right? Start trying to figure out a way to get private clients to up your skills, up your game. And I think those are the drivers who are going to have the most success as far as treating it full-time. But, that being said, I mean, Uber right now in LA and San Francisco, they're offering tons of bonuses and incentives and guarantees. So there are full-time drivers making over $1,000 a week. I know that those won't last forever. I don't think those will last forever. So, there might be some people that are sort of trading. Just keep in mind, right? Think about your long-term game. If you're trying to build a business, build a career, and you're looking to drive full-time, I think that's going to be a tough life because you're always sort of at the mercy of Uber and Lyft. So definitely something that you can kind of go and consider. So let's see. Egg Handy says, can I bring my son with me when I'm driving? I can't find a babysitter. And actually, this is actually something that a lot of drivers sort of test out and try. They bring a friend, they bring I actually interviewed on the podcast a husband and wife team that did 500 rides on Uber before they eventually got in trouble. But in short, no, you cannot drive with someone else. You can't have anyone else in the car. Unless you have a service animal. If you're a driver, you actually can drive with a service animal as long as you still have enough seats for your passengers. So that's definitely something that you should know. With rideshare services, you can't have anyone else in the car. If you get reported, you'll actually be deactivated, and Uber will give you the chance to sort of tell your story, and you can say, hey, whoops, I didn't know you couldn't do that. But I do know a lot of drivers who are doing delivery services, kind of taking it back into delivery. I do know a lot of drivers who are doing delivery services with a friend, with a boyfriend, with a girlfriend, with a partner, with a, whoever it might be, to kind of alleviate some of those situations where, hey, you can't find parking, or you just kind of want companionship or anything like that. Really, they're actually, delivering with a team is sort of an interesting concept. And I think it actually works pretty well with delivery. So definitely recommend you guys go and check out that podcast I recorded. You can find that on the rideshareguy.com/iTunes, and that gives you a little insight about that team driving. Won't work too well with rideshare because eventually you'll probably get busted by Uber or Lyft because they don't allow that, but you can definitely look into it for delivery. So hopefully that answers your question. And let's see, what else do we got here? All right, so all right, so feel free, we're kind of coming up on closing up on this session, and I want to thank everyone for joining. We still got another few minutes, but make sure you stay till the end too. Like I said, we're going to be giving out a little swag, and I'll come up with a way to give that out. Last time I had you guys email me. Maybe I'll do something along the same lines. This time we'll give out a few hats, so everyone who's joining live with me will at least have the chance to win something if you can stay till the end and last an hour with me asking your questions and hopefully getting them answered. So feel free, if you guys have any important questions, now's the time to get them in. So I think we've talked about a few good topics. We kind of went over the tax side of things, deducting your mileage, covered a few different situations, and hopefully you guys are getting some good value out of this. It looks like Corey chimes in. I've had 2 riders try to manipulate the system and have you take them further than the address entered into the app. Told Uber will pay you the extra miles you drive. True, false? What do you do in these situations? So first of all, if you're on Uber Pool, you guys should know that you always have to follow exactly where the GPS is telling you to go, the order that you need to pick up the passengers and drop off. That's Uber Pool though, right? On an UberX trip, it's a little complicated, but in short, Uber is now doing this upfront price and quote, which Christian did a really great article on this on the blog, and we have a video up there too. But basically, when you're a rider and you now request a ride, they're going to quote you a price. Let's say it's $20 for a ride from point A to point B. And as a driver, as long as you go about that same route, you're going to get paid based off the mileage and time that you drive, right? So the distance and time that you drive. But let's say the passenger adds a stop or adds a new destination and you keep going, their fare may adjust to that new fare and you'll still get paid, right? So basically, if you're making stops or if you're going and adding destinations, then you're going to get paid for all that time. So you really don't need to worry about it. Personally, I try to really avoid those situations like a drive-through where I'm gonna have to wait for 5, 10, 15 minutes. I'll wait for a few minutes, not a big deal, but the per mile rate is actually super low for waiting, the per minute rate is really low for waiting. But if you guys are out there and you do have a passenger, because the multiple destinations or out of stop, those things do come up. The one thing you'll need to watch out for is that next trip feature, right? Because if you're out there driving and someone says, hey, they enter destination point B, but their final destination is point C, as you get close to that point B, Uber is going to try and match you with that next trip. So you're going to always want to have the final destination in the app, right? So you can navigate to places in between, but the Uber app should always say what that final destination is, so that when you do get a next trip request, it's going to be based off that final destination. And you can also toggle the offline button if you kind of want to avoid, anytime you want to avoid the next trip feature, if you need to go to the bathroom or do anything like that. So hopefully that helps you guys. Looks like, all right. Jonathan says, looks like we got some people being banned. Christian, thank you for moderating. Man, this YouTube live really brought out all the crazies, but hopefully we got them all banned and you guys can just ignore them. Keeps things interesting though. So looks like Jonathan says, a compliment. I read you more and more in national news stories. The reporter uses information. Congrats. Yeah, thank you. That's definitely something that we try to do, is really kind of provide a lot of that perspective to any reporters covering this industry, because as you guys know, there aren't a lot of people out there with voices for the drivers. So anytime there's these situations that Uber says is great for drivers, we try to look at it from this independent view, go try it out ourselves as drivers and say, hey, is this good or is this bad? So hopefully that comes across in our videos. We kind of try to really highlight the positive and the negatives, right? Just like anything in life, there's good and bad. So Mike comes in and asks, let me take a quick sip of water. Why does Uber only show 8 cars on the Rider app? And I think that's purely because they don't want the app to be too cluttered. I have, so if you guys are drivers, I've talked a lot actually on this podcast or in this video about taking rides as a passenger, downloading the passenger app, because it's important, okay? I'll leave a link right now for you guys. And actually right now, if you guys take a ride with this code that I'm gonna link right now, I think Christian will even get a free ride. So that's Christian's code that I just shared. But it's the rideshareguy.com/passenger/Uber. So yeah, but basically kind of going back to that, if you guys are, it only shows those 8 drivers on the app, but that's also a good thing you can use. You can kind of leverage this passenger app and see where other drivers are and, kind of position yourself accordingly. I saw a couple people coming in that said, what car does Harry drive? So I'm actually driving a Lexus RX 330 right now, which is a really crappy UberX car, but it does get UberX. Obviously Uber Pool, and I've been getting a bunch of Uber Select calls lately too. So that's a car that I'm driving. We've got some cool articles on the site about vehicles, and we'll have a lot of cool stuff coming out in the future too, more about vehicles. And it looks like I don't get a final destination 25% of the time. I'm not sure what that means. I don't drive a Tesla yet, but I would definitely love a Tesla. So if Elon Musk is watching, feel free. I'm definitely open for sponsorships, or just bribe me basically with a Tesla. So yeah, it sounds like there are a couple questions coming in as far as the car, and there's definitely, a lot of people, I see a lot of people kind of recommending a hybrid. And I guess I'll say that, hybrids do make a lot of sense, especially if you're driving and putting a lot of miles on your car. But at the same time, if you're a full-time driver, Prius is probably going to be the best choice. But at the same time, if you're in that kind of part-time space or driving less hours per week, there are a lot of cars that are getting 30 to 45 miles per gallon that are sedans, right? Kias, Hyundais, all those types of really, even some of the Fords, a lot of the Asian-made cars, a lot of the Toyotas and things like that are getting really great gas mileage, Honda Fits, things like that. And you actually don't even need to buy a Prius. And the reason why that's important is because not Prius, a hybrid, but the non-hybrid cars are obviously a lot cheaper. So that's definitely something that you guys can look into. It looks like we got a Kia Cadenza with plenty of room, 36 miles per gallon. And I guess screw these electric cars. I guess that's the other thing too to keep in mind. And I actually have a video coming on YouTube channel about electric cars. So definitely make sure that you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. You'll be able to check that out. But that's the other thing too. I mean, if you're in your car a lot, make sure that you're in a car that you want to drive. I think that's a lot of times people underestimate that they're going to go out and try to get the best car for rideshare. I'm willing to maybe sacrifice a few bucks, not a lot. I might sacrifice a few dollars of earnings for a car that really excites me and a car that I really want to drive. Priuses are cool and all that, but maybe there's a car that is way more, awesome. I think a lot of the Hyundai models, a lot of the new Hyundai models are pretty cool. So maybe there's cars like that you actually just think look a lot sexier, right? And you kind of want to drive that car a lot more than a Prius. So that's definitely something too to consider when you're looking at, kind of what car you want. So yeah, Wayne, if anyone wants to buy me a Tesla, definitely I'm down, and you guys can take care of that. Let's see, Korean cars suck. Stay with Japanese. I think we kind of covered that. And we got a couple people sharing their Juno referral codes. Not cool, bro. So yeah, feel free. We got a few more minutes here. Definitely let me know if there's any questions that you guys want answered. When is Juno coming? I think that might be a good topic to go ahead and end this session on, because there's a lot we could cover, and obviously we'll be doing more of these YouTube lives in the future. So definitely make sure that you guys are subscribed to the email list. We'll notify you. And also, if you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can go to the rideshareguide.com/YouTube, and that'll take you straight to our YouTube page. You can subscribe there. And I believe if you turn on notifications on your phone, you should get a notification when we go live. So then that way you don't have to set reminders or do any of that crap. So definitely let me know. Actually, I'm curious, if you guys are on the live video right now, let me know if you got a notification when I went live and it told you, on your phone. Let me know if you got a notification and you came on that way. So I think a good question to end on right now is going to be Juno. So if you guys are wondering about Juno, so we've written a couple articles on Juno. I'm actually going to be going to New York in a few weeks, and I'm going to try and meet with Juno while I'm there. Juno is a company that's interesting. Obviously, they've done a lot to provide a really driver-friendly facade, I guess I would say, right? They've identified a lot of the key things that Uber drivers complain about, right? Not having equity in the company, low rates, high commissions, Juno's offering a 24/7 phone support line, right? Uber's getting rid of their email support, and Juno has this phone line that you can actually call and get pretty damn good help with. So, that's definitely something, we've covered Juno extensively, but in short, I think that the model is really cool. Where Juno may have problems, where they may struggle though, is with these passengers. How are they going to get these passengers, and how are they, a lot of Uber passengers love taking Uber, frankly, right? And they don't have a lot of complaints. As you guys know, there's a lot of good to being an Uber driver, I think, otherwise I wouldn't do it. But there are a lot of things that suck, right? There are a lot of things that are challenging that you have to deal with that Uber could do a lot better job of, and they just don't seem to address those. Juno has really come in and said that they're going to address all of these issues. So that's why I think drivers are excited for it. Juno has actually opened up pre-registration for drivers all across the country. So you guys may have seen me do a video on this or an article about this, but basically Juno is now accepting pre-registrations for drivers. And it's not, you're not applying to be a driver, no background checks or anything like that, but you can basically kind of be notified when they come to your city. So that tells me that they're looking to expand, they're getting ready to expand. And so I think for drivers, it's just something kind of keep an eye out for it. And hopefully Juno, though, can really go out there and, leverage their army of drivers to kind of go and convince, hey, all these passengers, hey, that you can get a better experience. You can get, probably not going to be able to offer cheaper rides than Uber, but you can get a similar priced ride, but a much better experience. And I think that's the big thing that the challenge that Juno is going to have. Honestly, you guys know, you've dealt with a lot of Uber passengers. A lot of passengers get in, stare at their phone, and don't want to talk, right? So that experience on Uber right now, if that's what you're looking for on Uber, that experience is pretty good as a passenger. So definitely something that you can kind of keep an eye on. Juno's coming, and we've got a lot of good content coming out with them. Hope to gain a little more information too when I go to New York and meet with them. So we're going to wrap up here. I think that we're closing in on an hour, and we could probably go for hours on end, but I really enjoyed this YouTube live session. Before I forget, we've got a little swag giveaway that we're going to do. It looks like basically everyone, almost everyone, we're still pretty high viewer numbers right now. Almost everyone made it to the end of this session. So I'm going to go ahead and say, here's what you need to do to win this hat. All right. Step number 1 is going to be go ahead and like this video or subscribe to the YouTube channel. So if you've already done that, you've already entered. And then next step, send me an email, harry@therideshareguide.com, with the subject line YouTube Live. and then just say anything you want in the email. I'm actually going to take the first 3 people that email me. So in order to be entered, you have to like and or subscribe to this video. Send me an email, harry@therideshareguy.com, and subject line swag. And I'm going to take the first 3 people that email me. So if you're a pretty speedy guy, I'm looking at my email right now. No one's come in yet. So once you get in there, or did I say subject line swag or YouTube live? I don't know, one of those two. I'll figure it out, but that'll enter, and I'm gonna actually mail you this exact hat. Kind of got the red, white, and blue, hat, and I'll go ahead and send that out to you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this YouTube live. We kind of covered a lot in this session. I think that we talked about, this big news story about the Uber drivers and discrimination issues, kind of this big study that came out. I'm actually going to be interviewing that researcher on the podcast. So if you guys haven't subscribed to the podcast, if you like the YouTube channel, you'll probably like the podcast. More longer depth, informed interviews. You can find it in iTunes or therideshareguy.com/iTunes. And then, we also covered some of these latest app updates, that there's no more email support, and the Uber trip upgrade, the new rider app. We've got articles about all of this up on the blog. Definitely encourage you guys to, if you're mainly check things out on YouTube, I want to mention that you can go to therideshareguy.com. We're producing 4 articles a week, sometimes more. So we cover a lot of the more breaking news type stuff there. And then you can actually subscribe to email, therideshareguy.com/email. And also, actually, one thing I should mention too is that if you guys are interested in getting notifications, obviously you have to subscribe to the YouTube channel in order to be notified when, when basically my videos are going live and when we're releasing new videos. But on our video training course on MaximumRidesharingProfits.com, we have a blog there that we set up, and we're actually transcribing all of our top YouTube videos every single week. So if you guys want to read those transcripts, or if you don't have time to always watch the videos, or you just want to see what the top videos are, you can head over to MaximumRidesharingProfits.com/blog, and we've got links all over the place. You can check that out. We've got so a lot of people don't even know, but we have a whole blog over there, and we have some articles that are very popular, and we actually transcribe all of our top videos over there and provide basically transcriptions there for everyone that might be interested in reading, or just people that might be hard of hearing. Gotta try and serve everyone. So hopefully, that was interesting, and then kind of going through all of the Q&A, you guys got a lot out of it. I'm going to go ahead and end this YouTube live right now. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this. We're going to be doing this at the beginning of every single month. Make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you'll be notified every time we go live. And without further ado, thank you guys for joining me. I had a lot of fun on here. If there's any questions that I didn't get to, as always, you guys know that you can leave comments on the videos, leave comments on the articles, or of course, shoot me an email, harry@therideshareguy.com. I still read, reply, and respond to each and every single email that I get. So definitely looking to help you guys as much as I can. If there's any topics that you want to see covered in the future, feel free to reach out. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and thanks for everyone who didn't troll it up in the comments, and thanks to Christian for moderating over there. All right, guys, be safe out there and take care. See you in a month for the next YouTube Live.